the Tao situation is really silly, goofy, guys. All right, and that was the best moist critical impression you're gonna get out of me. You can tell I really worked hard with that little title for the thumbnail for the video today. You can tell I really worked hard on that. But yes, the Tao situation is indeed crazy because the more time I spend online, coincidentally, the more time the nails start biting in my skull and I start getting a little angry. And it's a pretty easy task to get me aggravated. I'm a very sensitive young man. So when I'm online and I'm reading about, the Tao and I'm reading various excerpts, I'm like, okay, there seem to be a lot of misconceptions. And what bothers me even more is when people take meme lore or, like really cool, handsome YouTuber lore, like if you were to like maybe look at my videos even and kind of ascribe that and make that person's personal headcanon into actual canon. So guess what? We're gonna do a lecture series right now. We're gonna do the Tao lecture series because it does piss me off that some people just take meme lore and then just kind of clusterfuck it together and make it something that it's not. It does bother me quite a bit because unlike most Warhammer fans, I've read actually one Tao book. So that makes me an expert. That makes me 90% more knowledgeable than most Warhammer fans, even Tau fans, because they don't even read their own books. They pretend to. So, how does that feel? The World Eater probably has more literary experience than you do. Maybe you should step it up. But, no. But let's start with the meme stuff first. So, meme stuff ahead, there's this really common thing where some people ascribe this weird political stance to the Tao that they're like really like communist and like really like commie aesthetic, which is like not true at all, by the way. If you don't even really need to necessarily read the books to understand that. You don't need to read a Tao focused book. They can be antagonists, like in the Kane series, for instance, where he's on a planet and he's going with this water cast and he's essentially talking to the planet's governor and he's just trying to not get the governor to go, convert to the Tao, and then sort of it all goes to shit. Obviously there's some stuff going on, but regardless of that, people think that they're like communist, right? No, they're not. They're imperialist. They are absolutely imperialist by nature. The greater good is a lot like the belief of the God Emperor that humanity needs to basically spread that wonderful gift by absolutely destroying Xenos. The inverse of that is also true for the Tau. The Tau need to spread the greater good. They see a human planet. Oh, dude, they got to get liberated. They don't know the glory of the greater good. So we're going to have to give it to them and forcefully inhabit this world whether they like it or not. They're not, good guys either. Let's get rid of this. This is the only good faction. They're not the only good faction. That's not true. None of the factions are good. There can be good people in the factions, heroic people in every faction, besides maybe the Drukhari and the Tyranids and the Orcs. But that's it. There is no good faction. People who get stuck on unironically defending their faction need to give it a rest, because obviously that's not how it goes. You think Lord Blood Murder the Fifth of the chapter of Holy Blood Emperor Scythes Angels the Fifth? You think that's a good dude? You think the dude with skulls on his shoulder pads is probably going to be a real bro and tell you like you're doing a good job? No, obviously not. The Tau are no different, by the way. The Tau are not the good guys. What makes them grimdark is not that they're trying in a world that doesn't want them to exist. That's a bunch of shit. Sorry, that's just not how this works. What makes them really grimdark and like obviously not a good faction is what I just previously explained to you. They are not good if they're forcefully, inhabiting and occupying planets. And let's not mention, by the way, no, actually, sorry, let's mention it. Let's put the fictional race on blast right now. Let's put these blue people on blast. The only blue people I like are the avatars, the Na'vi from the famous movie Avatar, not to be confused with M. Night Shyamalan's disgusting attempt at whatever that movie was, the disgusting failure that, Sorry, getting a little sidetracked there, but yes. they're grimdark, and they're, not a good faction because I don't know how to spell grimdark. Pretend this says grimdark. I couldn't spell dark for some reason. Because not only are they obviously forcefully occupying planets, they're doing this really not cool thing called discrimination. They're a little speciesist, if you will. If you've read Phil Kelly's Farsight, which some people like, some people don't. I'll be honest, I don't really. It was not impactful for me reading it, and I say that in the sense that most Warhammer stories are either decent, good, with the very few being really, really, really good, and then the rest are just kind of either mid or just not good. This was sort of in that mid category, but it does a really good job of explaining the inner workings of how the Tau work as a, species, and then all the fire caste, the water caste, earth caste. And you see these parallels being driven between the Imperials and the Tau. But obviously, if you haven't read Phil Kelly's book, you probably should. I think it's a good read just in general if you're interested in Tau. But it goes over how a bunch of the water caste are extremely, discriminatory towards basically anyone who's not a Tau, and this includes humans as well. And they're kind of regulated. They're not as important. They're cast aside. They're really the only people in Tau society who have any sort of real power. When I'm describing power, I mean this in a political sense, not in like an actual physical or any sort of other sense. Is Tau, right? Vespids, Kroots, what are Vorgs? These auxiliary races that you think are all super cool and all super nice because they're all so friendly with each other. Bullshit. Let me wind up that. Boom. It's false. It's just not how that works, dude. I'm sorry to break it to you. It's not, because those races, while they are valued allies, are expendable. What's not expendable are Tau lives, and that's, ethereals make that really, really, really crystal clear, is all I have to say. They make it abundantly clear. Tau lives only matter. That's the real lore right there. Tau lives only matter. And that is true. Hate to burst your bubble. I don't like saying it, but it's true. The Tau are not a good faction. The only thing that makes them grimdark is they're basically, in my opinion, a baby Imperium. They're just waiting to keep growing and keep assimilating. They're on their own little great crusade, except they're losers and they're not humans. So they have to rephrase into something less aesthetically cool. So they have to be like the pilgrimage for greater good, which is also extremely lame. I may not be the biggest loyalist fan, but I'm damn sure going human first, Shout out to all the humans in 40K except for Barabbas and I guess everyone who's involved with chaos, because they're all unironically super duper evil. But you get what I'm saying? There's a lot of this going on online where there's meme stuff versus like legitimate actual transcribed lore. And I guess, yes, I understand that GW or the authors can change and retcon stuff with every other release of a book. I get that. But don't focus on that. There's a time to be like a giga nerd, right? I do it all the time with World Eaters. I do it with Tyranids. I do it with a bunch of factions when I'm fixated on something I like and I go and do little deep dives in it, right? And the Towers, this video is one of those examples with the Tau. They aren't this really static, they're the good guys. They're trying to do good. All they do is good stuff. They're all nice. No. They all practice the same forms of, violence and manipulation that every other faction is guilty of. Watercast too. I know most of you are familiar with this, and if you're not, you can pretty much just look it up because you'll find it on Reddit or literally anywhere. There's this excerpt where Cato Sicarius is kind of talking to this Watercast. He's about a killer, and essentially it goes along the lines of this, where she's trying to manipulate him, trying to get him to let her go so she can go report whatever she has to report. And she's trying to, invoke the Emperor, invoke Gilliman. She obviously doesn't know who Gilliman is, so she just mentions your gene father or your father in that case. And she's going on this tirade, and she basically ends it like this. And this is obviously not verbatim. I'm paraphrasing what she said. She says, "Oh, would your father or your gene sire be happy with what you're about to do, killing a defenseless, unarmed female. And he basically just goes in the chattiest way possible. He's like, yes, and then stomps her out. And what I was trying to sort of draw with that excerpt right there is she's really no different than a normal human diplomat who would probably try to do the same and then get one over on a Xenos and then kill them, right? They're all bad. The Tau situation is crazy for the fact that people still think that they're unironically good. There can be great and good people involved in a faction. Farsight, sure. Shadow Sun, sure. Puretide, I guess, maybe. But that's it. No one there is good enough. They're still serving under a regime that is unironically quite evil. Even Farsight, who has now detached himself from the Tau, still inadvertently serves them by, doing various missions and making sure that all the other Tau in his vicinity that he goes by or whatever, whenever he's involved with them in any capacity, he makes sure that they're okay, all right? They're not good. Get that out of your head. You got a friend who unironically supports the Tau. It's okay to like factions. I'm not saying don't hate factions. What I am saying is don't be a silly goose if I'm invoking my strongest moist critical vernacular right now. Don't be a silly willy goose, all right? Be rational in thinking. Don't take YouTubers or Reddit lore and then just make up your own shit and go, oh yeah, this is really cool. I love that Farsight's like a real anime protagonist hero. He's a cool dude. Oh, the Tau are awesome. They're great. They're really the only ones that matter as you're, in your local game shop telling people who are like, dude, what are you doing here? We're closed. You get what I'm saying? Just be cool. There is no good faction, and I just wanted to clear that up with you. I just wanted to make sure that we all understand that the Tau are in fact not good. They're a little evil. They're quite evil actually, but they have a nice aesthetic where they seem very friendly and nice, but that's still very calculated. And the Watercast, pretty good at being calculating and manipulating. Anyway, that's it. Just wanted to address this crazy Tau situation. If you watched the whole video, thank you so much, and I will see you all next time.